Ladies and gentlemen, there's a difference between fighting for honor and trying to make the military, the government, and non-black people look good. And I'm going to explain that to you by reading page 186 again, 187, Capoeiras in Honor. Okay, I'm not some pipsqueak, teaching, white people a few cute tricks to impress their people and make themselves seem like they're the best. I'm somebody with my money where my mouth is. If you do your research, you ask the real revolutionaries about who I am. You ask the main uncontrolled revolutionaries who I am. You ask the local gangs who I am and what I'm doing. They will all tell you the same thing. He honestly had thousands and thousands of dollars for anyone who could beat him for over 3 years. Anyone who doesn't say that is a liar. Okay, so enough about pipsqueaks and kind of cool Ichabod Crane hacky sack people trying to make their races look good. And, we'll talk about this. Much of the violence surrounding capoeiras in the 19th century was the result of their sense of honor. Yet, as Holloway notes, journalists and police officials were often mystified by the causes of seemingly random brutality, such as the assault on Mauricio, who was attacked by a band of capoeiras who fell upon him with clubs, striking him in the forehead and gashing his thigh. Now, before I continue, I'd like to point out a professor wrote this in his acknowledgments. There are lots and lots of martial artists. I encourage you to check these out. A lot of other reputable and respectable experts in the field. Seeing how most of my opponents in the opposition view care about superficial, these kind of, superficial ideas about, being experts and stuff. I figure I highlight that before I continue. One police chief likened them to the bloody sect of those who worship Siva or the homicidal juices, referring to the Indian thuggee set. Another police report suggested that capoeiras attack people for pure pleasure. Now soon, pay attention. They're going to explain how that's not actually the case, and it's being misunderstood, and it has to do with honor and the things I've been talking about from the start since 2009. And the first time I went back to the psych ward in almost 10 years was 2000, and was it 2010? 2010, I believe. Or 2000, yeah, it was 2000, no, it was 2011. So you see how they don't understand my behavior and how people who think my way have been much more violent. They had a good reason, has to do with oppression. And the people who trying to describe what's going on don't know what's going on. They're white and house niggas who side with them in the Democratic Party, at least today. Anyway, where was I? One of the crimes most common in the city, at least during the first 3 months of my administration, is murder and wounding that are more or less grave. It is singular that neither vengeance nor the desire to rob gives them cause. It is the joy of seeing blood run, or to use the term employed by this type of criminal, the desire to test their steel. Now ask yourself, if these guys were just thugs, and they should be compared to a thuggy set, then why weren't they robbing their victims? Why was it clear to the white establishment that this was about honor, not about money? Because real martial artists aren't materialistic. Women who do martial artists who side with the system or are materialistic aren't martial artists. Are we clear? This is the guy who lives by the code and actually has them hiding, not some coward in the suburbs who claims to be the best, or somebody using their massive network in the Democratic Party, the gay community, the Hollywood community, or whatever network they may have, fraternity, sorority, what have you, Masonic, to make themselves seem like the best. But the guy who actually put his money where his mouth is, I suggest you look at my movement, Actions Speak Louder Than Words. Anyway, where was I? Which raises them to the perpetration of such grave attempts. The authors of these are known by the vulgar term of capoeiras. In only one afternoon of the month of February, they committed 7 murders in the parish of Santa Ana. So are they worried about, maybe Asian martial artists or Native Americans in the area rebelling? Or was it black martial artists and the streets were relatively peaceful comparatively as well? So here we go. Capoeiras seem to have often directed their attacks at each other in their battles to control certain areas of the city. However, according to the police sources, their violence was also directed toward the general populace, particularly when they decided to shut down popular processions through terror tactics. So notice they call them terrorists. You are martial artists, you're a terrorist, we don't understand your behavior. Even to this day, we don't correct ourselves because we have a kind of white supremacist, ethnocentric agenda, and we're cultural imperialists, we're nepotists, and we practice favoritism, and we put our individual race above all others. So on that level, we're individualistic, which sets the stage for the Jews to turn all the people who see through our hypocrisy against us while we pretend to be the good guys. And in all this chaos, the good is actually where it began. And you're esoteric, so you understand that. And it began with martial artists such as me and the Scorpion King or Narmer or Mene, who united the world and civilized them under martial arts morality, justice, and fair play, not European culture. As I continue, where was I? Black women carrying their young masters in their arms, the fathers seeking refuge for their wife and children. The horrendous shutdown. The Caxingules flew at the front. Capoeira exploded without restraint, and the mayhem resulted in broken heads, shattered light posts, stabbings, and deaths. Because the victims of these capoeiras were often other blacks, these attacks cannot be conceived of as simply resistance directed at their oppressors. Now, this is a mistake again. He's citing 212, and you look at the back of the book, that person is mistaken. Look, some niggas are house niggas that deserve to die. I'm going to leave it there. While capoeira certainly engaged in some random violence, it is doubtful that most of these attacks are best understood as simple violence for the love of bloodletting. If this were the case, then the masses of Rio's bonded community would have lived in fear of them, since they were so often as not their targets. Capoeiras were well known in the city. For example, Jose Maria de Conceição placed an ad in the Diário de Rio de Janeiro calling for the return of his bondsman, Felipe, who he described as very well by pedestrians for being a capoeira. The worldview of police chiefs probably blinded them to the possibility that instead of being simply feared, capoeiras may also have been seen as men of distinction and possibly defenders of the community. So you look at the Horus, right? These people are Igbos. They are well aware of Egypt. They know that they're the greatest warriors. They know their history because of the oral tradition of warriors. We were the historians. We were the politicians. We were the kings. We were the civilizers of society. We were the progenitors of the white man. We were the pioneers of martial arts, religion, and everything else that fucking matters. And they have no respect as these sniveling geeks who we subjugated for hundreds of thousands of years, trying to rise up and pretend it's not the case. Before we were even Homo erectus, we were subjugating those type of pussies. So let's not get it twisted now. Who's superior now? Let's not ever get that twisted. Again, it is the order of the jungle, okay, that shows us who's superior, right? The lion symbolizes this. Europeans have acknowledged that. Most of them are Christians, right? At least in America. Predominantly Christian nations in Europe. So they're saying, yes, we acknowledge the lion symbolizes the king. He has natural supremacy. For the same reason the black man naturally was superior until we brought in technology and things that would allow us to artificially usurp the natural rulers of this here planet and twist the truth as Satan attempted to do with God. And those who see it the white man's way are of the white devil, and the oppressor, known universally as the white devil, and those who see it my way are real warriors of God. And those who pretend that they see it their way, but really see it my way, are cowards who will never see heaven. Anyway, where was I? The worldview of police chiefs probably blinded them to the possibility that instead of being simply feared, capoeiras males. Okay, while police and some elites wanted to eliminate demonstrations of Ogos de Capoeira as a public menace, to their amazement, these Hogos attracted the attention of the transients to the curiosities of the diorama, also called a competition of capoeiras. Just as a moth is attracted to light, thus the common people of the city did not run in fear of capoeiras during daylight performances, but rather flocked to their exhibitions, suggesting that the capoeiras garnered some level of respect or admiration from the larger community, regardless of the violence of which they were capable. So regardless of what the liberal hippies thought, regardless of what the white racists who want to contain the Negro threat thought, the black warriors like me, regardless of people being afraid of what we might do, we're given respect, kind of like gangsters, but way more profound, way more religious, and way closer to God, way more African, no whitewash kind of urban white culture influencing this with, kind of Southern slang influencing their diction and their way of speech, but rather true African thought. And don't you ever get that twisted. And don't you gangbangers ever downplay that fact, or you have stabbed your people in the back. Anyway, the best way to conceptualize the ritual violence of capoeira societies then is through the lens of reflexive honor. Capoeira societies, while not overtly aimed at overthrowing the safe system, at least not in the first half of the 19th century, should be understood as an equally powerful and probably more viable form of social resistance in claiming reflexive honor and enacting constant defiance of white control. Now, what you think they might mean by reflexive honor? Well, if you do me wrong, if you present a threat to me, and you're doing me this way, then I'm going to react. It's not reactionary. There's a difference between reactionary and reflexive honor and a revolutionary. If I was to choose between the three, the reflexive honor reigns supreme, because a revolutionary can be a bad person. He's not necessarily a good person, but someone who has reflexive honor is maintaining purity and honor. Far more respectable. Far, far. Anyway, and enacting constant defiance of white control. You know, resist, defy, constant defiance, resist, defy, transcend. Are the gang members telling you that? Are the conformists? Are the liberals? Those hippies with their ninny politics? No, they're not, glorifying the most righteous type of person, someone like me. They're trying to make you a lumberjack, emo, homosexual, gender feminist pussy who is pro-abortion and wants to break down the family. He's pro-government and is a fucking extremely fanatical conformist. Bitch-ass niggas. Anyway. Capoeiras were able to claim honor through their membership in and propriety over a collective, in their performative display, in their vengeance of impugned honor, and in their refusal to acknowledge white claims of superiority. Now, what have I proven beyond any doubt that, these people who are hiding, whoever they may be, how can they then turn around and say we're superior? Real time, just like the jungle. What animal is superior in the jungle? Real time, natural, no white privilege, no secret society network, no old money helping you out. A real challenge that shows natural supremacy. They could not live up to it. 3 years and over 1 month. Thousands of dollars. Living with my parents. Are any of them anywhere near as sure as I am? Have they done anywhere near anything as glorious? No. They need to shut the fuck up. The fuck up. Now let's go to page 12 or 13. Oh, excuse me, 11. Mastering either art could bring a skilled practitioner respect for their graceful execution, the admiration of potential wives, and economic advancement. Each art provided a spiritual development, a path of spiritual development that could take an exceptional adept to one of the highest forms of honor in Africa, the status of a transcendent hero. So look, I'm doing my own path. For those who have missed it, I'm walking the original image of God path. Samson, Josiah, Joshua. You understand me? David, the original image of God, a warrior's connection with the Almighty. Lord, help me triumph over my enemies. I prayed to him. You all saw me. Go to my older videos. God triumphed me over them because my heart was pure. My soul was pure. My heart balanced with a fucking feather. And they're full of hypocrisy and pipsqueak, Ichabod Crane, and blob bullshit. Big Mecloak. Black power. Yeah, in case you didn't see before, I am the greatest, and I knew that, and I said that before I was, Ironically, before I came to fucking Earth, I said these pussies are going to hide because they don't want to see a real one who really has mastered martial arts, and none of them are as proficient as I am. I told you they would lose. I didn't know for sure. You never know. It might be my worst day of my life, their luckiest. Well, what happened? Sportsmanlike conduct will be applied, and I made examples, and the opposition view, martial artists and all, learn from those examples. And I would love for any of those pussies to go to a real African martial artist, go to his face, go to a real capoeira's face, and say, your sparring means nothing at all, you're a pussy. We all know those guys, they do cartwheels and stuff like that. They're fucking ripped. Not some mini-me pipsqueak. Can you imagine one of those guys going to Rio de Janeiro and telling a real capoeirista, you're a bitch, my martial arts are better than yours. He'd be dead in no time. And history was the same way, so help me God. Thank you.
No matter how much the intelligent hero tries to appeal to the conditioned, simple-minded, lesser sex, and I'm not sexist per se, I just base things on a natural scale. Because what other scale do we really have? I mean, let's be honest. It's all made up other than that. Nature is the truth. Our ability to, work with nature, determines whether or not we survive. Our survival depends on our ability to understand nature. And the elite want to lie about it so they can extort us. Whether it is climate change scams. I'm not saying there isn't climate change. There is. Climate changes all the time. But regardless what it is, they depend on your stupidity, and they condition people to be, subservient and so on. So when you look at this thing, so to make a long story short, the wise man is not able to gain the admiration of attractive women in our day and age. And these conformists, everything they do is based on what is normal. And when they talk to each other, they say things that prove that they couldn't possibly have above a maybe 70 or 80 IQ if you were to believe that that really reflects someone's ability to understand and perceive what is going on and to learn and to process it effectively. Yeah, they couldn't be, they're below average. Anyway, they'll say things like, "Oh, you know, he thinks this." It's like, wow. It's like he thinks the grass looks green to most people. Huh. Wow. And they'll laugh as if they're right. It's like, look, trying to play me out is stupid or crazy when you can't debate me and you're hiding from my challenge. I mean, that shows it shows how stupid they are by their tactics, right? It's like they have this serious problem that takes a mastermind genius to address, right? And what do they do? You got every simple-minded fuck coming together thinking two heads is better than one is going to magically solve some. That's like every kindergartner say, hey, if we all get together, maybe we can beat the top chess master at chess. No, you are lesser forms of life, no, all racism aside, less intelligent. I'm in charge. I'm more intelligent. And you only live because I haven't decided to kill you yet. So no, that's not going to work. The sheep can't get together and take on the dragon. I can fly and blow fire downwards. I can adjust. I can adapt. God made it so that I dominate you inferior forms of life. And the moment it really comes down to it, you know. So how many of you want to praise mini-me's for their cute tricks, or privileged yuppies for the cute tricks they learn from Asians in their suburban martial arts schools or other whites? And how many of you want to admit that martial arts are something that the big people who have the toughest average warrior among the race, invented? And you can tell by their genes, right? Why do birds fly? Why have fish adjusted, right? Your body adjusts to your environment. Those hacky sack guys. I mean, come on. Let's be real now. Let's be real. Ping pong, hacky sack. Really? Try growing up in a black ghetto, or growing up in an African village, or growing up as a black martial artist, and a gang member in California. I mean, really, we've been doing this for thousands of years while you people been, doing some emo stuff, wearing wigs and shit. So, don't turn around and say, oh, you're the great warriors and we're not. Don't do that. It's disingenuous. It's shameful. And when black historians, expose you and you have nothing to say in debates, when we put $20,000 up and you can't beat us at sparring, it's shameful what you people resort to. Look, it's like what they're doing is equivalent to, mini-me, coming up to me and saying, you know what, just because you're tall doesn't mean, you're a better martial artist than I'm like, what are you talking about? Do you realize I could beat you with both hands behind my back, right? I just kick you in the small fucking head and you'd be dead. It's like, what are you talking about? And that's how these non-blacks come at me, man. And these skinny white guys, want to pay me to throw the fight. Man, fuck these